2 days after the first fruit harvest that happened on July 19th this past year, He led me to post a video called The Restoration of All Things. I'll put the link to this video in the video description box below, or if you're reading the text to this video on the www.repairingthebreach.info website, then you will find a link to it above this text. Yesterday, as I was meditating on what my Father was giving me for the day, He showed me in detail how He has restored and revealed all things. He told me to produce a video on this subject. He led me to name this video The Restoration of All Things, but I was pretty sure that I had already named a previous video this, so I looked, and sure enough, I had. But as I thought about other possible titles, He made it clear to me that He was telling me to duplicate this title. So I did, and I'm calling this video Part 2. Therefore, I will refer to the first one as Part 1. As I started the notes for this video, He told me to go back and listen to the Part 1 video that I posted 2 days after July 19th. I was amazed by what I heard. About 3 minutes into the video, I mentioned the very verses that He led me to base this Part 2 video upon. This Part 2 video is about the manner in which He has revealed and restored that which is recorded in His Word. It was just a couple of days ago in the Yellowstone and the West Coast tsunami video that I spoke about these verses that I mentioned in the Part 1 video. They are found in Isaiah chapter 28, verse 10, because precept upon precept, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little and there a little. In other words, an insufficient amount of information here and an insufficient amount of information there. And the rest of Yahweh's Word testifies to this verse in this manner, including His Son speaking in parables and things like this. His doubling the precept upon precept and the measuring line upon measuring line in this verse, and His doing so again in verse 13, is His hammering home the importance of what He is saying in these verses. An example of this doubling hammer is found in Genesis 41:32, where Yahweh gave Pharaoh the same dream about the coming famine twice to hammer it home in his brain. Even this event with Pharaoh testifies that there must be a second witness. One of the most notable examples of Him recording His secrets in His Word in this manner is the hidden testimony that Saul of Tarsus is the abomination of desolation. The evidence that he is this abomination is irrefutable when it is examined in a precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little way. Another example of this is the other day I spoke about Deuteronomy 18:22 and what is recorded in it. I have a question for those of you who believe that if an event does not come to pass exactly as a prophet spoke that it would, with no regard to our Creator's additional revelations or with no regard to what He had recorded elsewhere in His Word, that prophet who spoke it is a false prophet. Where is the second witness to your belief recorded in Yahweh's Word? Yahweh's Word testifies that many times that which His prophet spoke did not happen exactly like they spoke or thought that it would. The reality is, He reveals His secrets and He gives His continuances and causes His prophecies to unfold in His perfect timing to do so. Even Yahweh leading me to do a sequel to the Part 1 video fits into today's subject. That which is recorded in the 2 parts to this video that are spaced out like they are shows that He adds 2 things that He has already revealed, and He does so in His timing to do so. For instance, in Part 1, I spoke that I thought that the rest of the first fruits were actually harvested on a physical plane as well on July 19th, but I spoke that I did not know for sure. And then later on in His timeline, He showed me where His Word testifies that they were. As I listened to Part 1, I was amazed at how He has added to my testimony since that time. The way that He has done so since then is in the same way or in the same manner that He did so leading up to July 19th. Ever since the time that He plucked me out of the fire, He has revealed His secrets to me by building one precept that is recorded in His Word upon another. He has built that which He has restored and revealed with His measuring line upon His measuring line. He sent me to you with what most translators called a reed, or sometimes a measuring reed, that the Apostle John recorded that the temple was measured with in Revelation 11:1. and most of them translated this reed as a plummet, or as a plummet line that would be given into the hand of Zerubbabel in Zechariah's prophecy that is found in Zechariah 4:10. I often reference this measuring reed or this plummet line as the measuring rod in these videos. The measuring rod is Yahweh's word. The first witness, our Messiah, spoke that all would be measured by his Father's word as well. This verse is giving us a three-tier system that he uses to reveal his truth and to testify to that which is actually his word. All three of these tiers are to some degree saying the same thing, but each one is saying it in a different way that expands on the other and emphasizes something a little different in a little different way. The first tier of understanding his truth that he gives is precept upon precept, but for reasons that I will explain, precept upon precept is not the only descriptive emphasis in this verse that Yahweh is telling us that we must use. He expands on the manner that his word is recorded by also emphasizing measuring line upon measuring line, and here a little, there a little. And there is a reason why he does so. I'll start with precept upon precept. A precept is a reference to that which he has charged us to obey, or that which he has instructed us to do through his servants the prophets. But maybe something that is recorded in his word is not something that his prophets actually spoke, or maybe that which they spoke is mistranslated or added to or diminished from. For this reason, precept must be applied upon precept, and it needs to fit into and agree with the rest of his measuring rod, not just the rest of the precepts. Applying these principles to proving Yahweh's word makes it extremely easy to prove that Saul of Tarsus's writings are not his word, not Yahweh's word. What Saul spoke does not agree with what the rest of Yahweh's prophets, including his only begotten son, spoke. Not only that, applying these principles proves that Saul is the abomination of desolation spoken of by our Messiah and the prophet Daniel. For this reason, Yahweh also emphasized that his word must be examined in a measuring line upon measuring line way. This is the second tier to proving and testifying to his word. His measuring line is that which he gave us to measure all things with. This measuring rod is all of his word that he made readily available to us, not just part of it, and we have to use all of it that is recorded here a little, there a little. Because of man's input in translating his word and putting it together in what we call the Bible, what we call his word might not actually be his word. This is why what we are told is his word cannot stand by itself. A good example of this is what most of you believe that Deuteronomy 18:22 says. Precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, shows that what most of you believe this verse says is not what his word testifies to. It has to exist as his word, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, in order for it to be his word. Yes, if it is his word, it will come to pass, but a prophecy does not have to come to pass according to how our own understanding thinks that it will, in order for it to be his word. On the contrary, odds are it will not, because our ways and our thoughts are not as his ways and his thoughts are, until our hearts become circumcised to be as he is. He put the double, even quadruple emphasis on precept upon precept and measuring line upon measuring line for a reason. He did so for a reason, and he added the third tier of here a little, there a little, to add even more emphasis on to what he is saying. His reference to measuring line upon measuring line is a reference to events that are recorded in his word that also include prophecies in them. An example of a couple of these events that merge together in his end-time timeline to testify to his end-time messenger of the covenant is the 377-day account of the flood and the 3 years that Elijah was fled. You should marvel at the way that he is mirroring and duplicating the 377 days of Noah's timeline into his end-time timeline, the way that he is. Elijah was fled for 3 years before Yahweh sent him before Baal's servants with Yahweh's power backing him up. Yahweh did not empower Elijah to call down the fire right away in Elijah's prophecy. And the end-time messenger of the covenant was prophesied by Malachi and by our Messiah to be sent in the prophecy of Elijah. You should marvel that the first nearly 3 years now of the 3.5 years, or 1260 days, of the prophecy that I have been sent with has been my being fled, in lieu of what his word says about his end-time servant being sent in the spirit and in the prophecy of Elijah, and Elijah being fled for 3 years before Yahweh rose him up in power to go stand before Baal's servants. You should do so, especially in lieu of his here a little, there a little instruction, and Isaiah having to walk naked and barefoot for 3 years. This is an example of why Yahweh spoke that we must also use the third tier of here a little, there a little in understanding and proving his word. His word is recorded here a little, there a little, and it's recorded in this manner. Elijah did not have to walk naked for 3 years. Isaiah did. Yet Yahweh's word testifies in a measuring line upon measuring line way that both of these events include end-time prophecies. So in lieu of this, the prophecies found in both of these events apply to Yahweh's end-time messenger of the covenant. And one of them is recorded here, and the other one is recorded there. And of course, precept upon precept is also involved in this. But instead of marveling at his word, most of you have scoffed and mocked at that which his word has testified to in this manner. As I look back at how the prophecy that he has sent me with has unfolded, it is an exact match to that which is spoken in this verse. He is manifesting this verse through the prophecy that he has sent me to you with. Here's another example of this. First, his word says that he was going to pluck me out of the fire, or his end-time messenger out of the fire. In order to be plucked out of the fire, you have to first be in it. He did not give me all understanding when he plucked me out from the coals. He started building the understanding that he was giving to me in a precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little manner. And the testimony that he sent me with reflects this. Even this second part video, over a half of a year after the first part, reflects this. This is why I put the link in the video description box for you to go back and listen to it. Like I said, I even made a reference to this verse in this video, and I did not even know this yesterday when Yahweh led me to make a sequel video with this verse on the subject matter until I went back and listened to the video. In the testimony that he has sent me with, he has often revealed a precept or something else that is recorded in his word, and then later he has added to it and built upon it with another precept or with another prophecy or event that is recorded in his word in this manner. He has built the prophecy that he has sent me with by cross-referencing a particular tier here and a particular tier there of the wall that he has been rebuilding with that which is recorded elsewhere in his measuring line. And in his doing so, my understanding has increased along the way, and he has revealed his secrets and restored his word to you through this increased understanding in a precept upon precept, measuring rod upon measuring rod, here a little, there a little manner as well. And through this process, he has built up the walls that were made desolate. He's done so through his word in this manner. And for this, my accusers call me a false prophet. Go figure. As of yet, he has not rebuilt these walls through sending the time of tribulation, the time of great calamity. His word even recorded that this would be the case. He said in Zechariah chapter 4, "Then the angel answered and spoke to me, saying, This is Yahweh's word that is upon Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, says Yahweh of hosts." So you see, it was to be this way all along. If you do not think so, then what other explanation of this verse do you give to yourself for what this verse is saying? He goes on to say, verse 7, "Who are you, great mountain? Before Zerubbabel's face you will become a plain, and he will bring forth the headstone, shouting favor for favor to him." The testimony that he has sent me with proves that nearly all of you will not hearken to what he has, would not and will not, have not, hearken to what he has revealed and restored without him humbling you into doing so on a physical plane. This is sad, yet the witness that he has sent me with has already testified against you. He has rebuilt the broken down wall through his spirit up until now. It is just that you love the broken down wall instead of loving his truth, and you will not lay siege to that which he has built up. If you have watched these videos, if you feared being wrong, you would see that what he has revealed and restored has been testified to in the manner of precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little. Here's another example of this. His turning the water into blood was revealed in this manner through his measuring rod. First, Yahweh rose up Elijah against those who served a make-believe image of him. The image of him that they served and worshipped was the image of a creator with babbling words that did not make any sense whatsoever. This is why Yahweh's word calls him Baal. The word Baal is a reference to that which is false and to that which babbles and makes no sense. I'll expand on this in a few minutes as well, in reference to the image of him that nearly all of you serve and worship. Then in another place, Elijah was removed from the scene in a whirlwind at the Jordan River. Then in another place, John the Baptist shows up baptizing at the Jordan River. Both John and our Messiah spoke that we must turn from our rebellion and then be baptized, symbolic of the atoning process for our sins. Then in another event, Yeshua turned the water into wine at a wedding banquet. He used 6 stone pots that the Jewish people used back then for ritualistic cleansing as a vehicle for this miracle. They used these pots as a part of their perversion of the atonement process for their sins, thinking that they were being made clean in their washings. Then in another place, Yeshua said that John the Baptist was a tier of the Elijah that was to come. Then in another place, the night before he was murdered, he said that the wine, referring to the water that he turned into wine earlier, was symbolic of his shed blood that would be shed the following day. He also said that Elijah would still be sent to restore all things. Then Yahweh sent me to you at the Jordan River on a spiritual plane. Again, the Jordan River is where the first Elijah departed, and the second Elijah also showed up to begin his service. His sending me to the Jordan on a spiritual plane linked this all together. He did so in the first video that he led me to post. He sent me to you, turning the water that we must be baptized under into his son's shed blood. Through the testimony that he has sent me with, he has told you that in order to enter into the renewed covenant, you have to meet the condition of genuinely turning from your rebellion to his measuring rod and turn to living it in the flesh in order to become as he is in the spirit. He sent me to you, telling you that if you do, then he will turn the water that you must be baptized under into his son's shed blood and atone for your sins. He revealed this to you through a precept, through me, through a precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little way, just like he has done with the rest of what he has restored and revealed, including his 30-day month. His measuring rod has even identified the 2 witnesses in a precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little manner. All of that which he has sent me to speak and to reveal has been given to you in this manner. You can even examine the things that he has revealed through me, like why the blood that departs from a woman or the seed that departs from a man makes them unclean, and you will find that this holds true. For that matter, have you ever heard such explanations for these things as he has revealed through the testimony that he has sent me with? Yet the explanations for these things that he has given through the testimony that he has sent me with make perfect sense. And they agree with the rest of his word, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. If you do not believe this, then why don't you tell me why the blood leaving a woman or the seed leaving a man makes them unclean, since you're so wise in your own understanding? The same holds true with everything that he has revealed and restored through the witness that he has sent me with. And things like the magnification of the touching of the dead and the red heifer and the water of separation statute tie it all together. And it does so in a magnificent and a brilliant way. Here is the punchline. What he has revealed and restored testifies to why we are here in the flesh and to why he gave us his word to live in the flesh. He did so to circumcise our hearts to become as he is. Have you ever heard most of what he has sent me to speak from anyone else? That is, at least except from those who have hijacked bits and pieces of what I have spoken after I have spoken it? No. You have not, because these things were hidden while Yahweh called out and built his temple. He built his temple from those who would hearken to him with the desire to become as he is. Why do you think that he said that he is going to have to tell you what his word says at the time of the end if what I speak is not true? And he said that he is going to do so through one man named Michael? But he also said that you were not going to hearken to the one whom he was going to send to you and has sent. Some of you have admonished me for speaking the way that I'm speaking in these videos. You think that the fire that I've been sent with is pride or that it is unloving. I have been sent speaking the way that I have been sent because you will not hearken. What I have been sent to speak is all about love. I want for you to turn from your rebellion so that you can have eternal life awarded to you, and so does your Creator. Yahweh's word says that he was going to send me speaking this way. In the very next verse in Isaiah, he says in verse 11, because with mocking lips and with a different tongue or a different way of speaking, he will speak to this people. Elsewhere, he says that he'll speak to them in the same language, so he isn't referring to a different language. Does the rest of his word testify to his word here in this verse? Absolutely. Even the revelations of our Messiah to the Apostle John say that the end-time witness would be sent with fire coming out of his mouth. The first witness spoke this way as well. He called the religious of the day snakes and vipers and liars and hypocrites, and he told them that they were of their father the devil, like I've been telling you. It is because most of you have mocked and polluted his word that he has sent me to you speaking this way. And it is because you have mocked and scorned and persecuted his prophets. It is for this reason that he has sent me to you with fire coming out of my mouth. But he has also sent me to you with a plea for you to turn from your rebellion to him. And he will give you rest and wash your transgressions in his son's shed blood. He explains this in the next verse. In verse 12, he says, he will say, this is that which will give rest to the weary and give them comfort. And this is the place to escape the toil. Yet they will not be willing to hear you, he says. In other words, yet you will not hearken. What is so hard to understand about this? He even tells us in these verses in Isaiah why he gave us his word in this manner. He did so to test and prove us. There is a reason why only few were chosen. In verse 13, we read this explanation. Yahweh's word exists to you, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little and there a little. In other words, an insufficient amount of information here and an insufficient amount of information there, in order that you could stumble backwards as you walk and be broken and snared and taken captive. The rest of his word testifies that this verse is true. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. We had to choose to fight for his kingdom and for his righteousness. It had to be our foremost priority, like his son said. We even put Satan and the demons here as part of this same test. And he allowed for Satan to raise up servants like Saul of Tarsus as part of this test. He not only allowed for Satan to do so, he put the hook in him to cause him to do so. He allowed for the mother whore to put Saul and his followers Luke and Mark alongside of his word and let them call their lies his word. He did so as part of this test. He let the scribes add to and twist his word as part of this test as well. Yet he also gave those who feared him and desired to become his righteousness a way to discern that which was his word. And these verses here in Isaiah explain how this is accomplished. If you want an example of how not using his three-tier system to prove his word works out, just look at what my accusers have done to claim that I'm a false prophet. They are a perfect example of not applying the measuring rod, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little, to validate what they believe to be true. They declare that I am a false prophet because of one verse with absolutely no regard to what the rest of Yahweh's word testifies to, and with no regard to how he has chosen to reveal his secrets and to continue to give his timeline. And they rely on their own understanding in their doing so and in their accusations. I have said in several of these videos that all one really needs to do is believe the Ezekiel 24 sign. I have said this because it is Yahweh's promise that he has sent me, and this is certainly true if Ezekiel 24 is indeed his unadulterated word. But what if the Ezekiel 24 promise was added to or altered by the scribes to serve their own bend, and as they've done with other things, and it was not from the Most High? This is why he has given you and I layer after layer, tier after tier of proof elsewhere in his word that he has sent me. He has done so by fulfilling several prophecies through me, such as sending me to turn the water into blood. He has fulfilled so many prophecies like this through me, and he has done so in order to prove that you are without excuse. As far as the Ezekiel 24 sign goes, he has even validated this sign by collaborating it with the Isaiah 61 and the Zechariah 4 prophecies. His doing so is detailed in other videos. If you want to hang your eternal life on your interpretation of one verse and call the rest of his resume that he has sent me with a lie, including that which is being given at this time about how his word says that he would reveal his word at the time of the end, this is your choice. Dying you will soon die. If you think that what I spoke the other day about Deuteronomy 18:22 may be being added to or altered by the scribes to justify their killing of the prophets is not a real possibility, you are delusional to think this. Yahweh's word testifies that he allowed for things like this to happen, to test and prove us. Like I said, this is the reason why Satan and the demons were placed here. Plus, Yeshua himself condemned them back then for their adding in their own traditions and such. He even said that they stoned and killed the prophets of old. Don't you think that just maybe they had to give themselves a reason to justify their doing so? Plus, historical evidence even shows that some things were altered and added. I gave the example the other day of them adding in the complete story of the woman who had committed adultery in John chapter 8, approximately 1,000 years after Yeshua was here in the flesh. On top of this, according to what most of you think that Deuteronomy 18:22 says, nearly all of the prophets, if not all of them, including our Messiah, were false prophets, if you would just think about it. For that matter, all they needed to do was add 2 Hebrew words to cause this verse to read the way that it does about the event not coming to pass. Like I said, there is a reason why his word is recorded in the manner that it is, precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little. The reason is not only to test and prove you, and myself as well, and to give us the opportunity to stumble backwards as we walk, and to be broken and snared, and to be taken captive, but he did so in order to also safeguard his word for those who would hunger and thirst for his kingdom and for his righteousness. He did not tell us that he would guard his word. He told us that he would make it available to us, and he commanded us to guard and to hedge about his word. Over and over again in his word he said this, that we are to guard and hedge about his word. If you are hanging your eternity on man's translations of his word, or listening to those whom his word does not testify to, and refusing to hearken to what would cause him to give you his 7 spirits to guide you, you are not hungering and thirsting for his kingdom and for his righteousness. Period. Therefore, according to his Son, you are not worthy of his shed blood to atone for you. Isaiah went on to record, stand upright and hear Yahweh's word, you babblers that rule this people with which are Jerusalem. You have made a covenant with death, and you are in agreement with the grave, because you have made lies your refuge, and you have hidden under that which is false. You say, the overflowing scourge will pass over, and it will not come upon us. Oh, how true it is that you have made a covenant with the death and with the grave, and how you have made lies your refuge, and you've propped yourself up in soft cushions with believing into these lies and hiding under that which is false. I said earlier that I would expand on the babbling image of him that most of you serve and worship. If you would just think about it, the religions of the world make no sense as to why we were created. What is the purpose of being here in the flesh? To simply confess that the Messiah is the Most High's Son with your mouth and believe that he raised him from the dead. Yes, this is true, but even the demons believe this and confess this. Plus, most of you lie against his truth on this anyway. You confess that Yeshua is also the Most High with your mouths. Therefore, you believe that he raised himself from the dead. Can't even see your own ridiculous hypocrisy in your confessions. My point is, what is the purpose of man's religions other than to cause you to feel good about yourselves and to give you a false sense of security in your eternity? Christianity is nothing more than just a bunch of babble that makes no sense to why we are here in the flesh. This is why your G-guy is no different than the Baal of old, nor do the rest of man's religions that they got from their father Satan. Let's look at Judaism, for example. What is the point of obeying a bunch of rules while ignoring the reason why our Creator gave them to us to obey? Plus, they pervert and twist much of his Torah anyway, including his set-apart Sabbaths. The walls have been built of Yahweh's temple, and the walls have been rebuilt to Yahweh's temple. Turn from your rebellion to him and come abide with him and cause him to abide in you. I want to add something else to this topic of understanding his word. Understanding the hidden secrets that are in his word is more than using this 3-tier process. We also need to have his 7 spirits given to us to guide us. And his word testifies that we have to obey that which his word says and testifies to in order to have them given to us. The 3 tiers just testify to the basics of that which is his word so that we know what to obey so that we can be given his 7 spirits to guide us into the rest of it. The bottom line says that he has sent me to you to cry out for you to turn from your rebellion to him. His word says so in a precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little way. And this is the same manner that he has increased my understanding in the testimony that he has sent me with to you with his timeline as it has unfolded. If you want to call this a false testimony, it is certainly your choice to do so. If you do not think that this is how his end-time witness against man would unfold at the time of the end, you are simply wiser than that which our Creator's word testifies to. You are wise in your own understanding. The bottom line, which is Yahweh's word, says that he has revealed and restored what he has revealed and restored through me is testified to by his word in a precept upon precept, measuring line upon measuring line, here a little, there a little manner. Like I said, including his 30-day month, if you do not want to return to and lay siege to that which his word has testified to in this manner, including the correct timing of his appointed times like his Sabbath, then you will soon die in your choice to make this choice.